The streets of Kendopolis are doing better these days, but the streets aren't what I'm worried about. Compared to the cockroaches sitting at their computers or with their phones and tablets in the YouTube comments section, well, makes a person almost want to go back to busting criminals and bashing villains. Penguin made life hell, but he sure never made cringy, illogical, or baseless comments on my art. That's why the good members of this community can rest easy, because I will now seek out this human garbage and take out the trash in Kendopolis with the hard punch of justice.
It pains me to see so many people view Kendo as an amazing object creator. You should see some of the objects made by people in the Punctuation Plaza. Kendo is slightly below average at best. I told this to Kendo on...
You do terrible voice acting.
This is so unfair. You're talking to me and not the others. What the hell? Which type YouTuber is that? One of the rules of being a YouTuber is not to give a person too much attention.
Punctuation. Use it.
I love your videos, Kendo. Can you make...
Oops. Sorry. Well, alright. It's all in a day's work, but I think I've squashed them for now. Hello again, Kendopolis, and welcome to our first ever Patreon Create episode in this series, and the 200th numbered episode here for Scribblenauts Unlimited. This is, of course, the series where I create your favorite characters in the Scribblenauts Unlimited object editor, a feature only available on the Wii U and PC versions of the game. So today's episode, being a Patreon Create, just means that someone was kind and epic enough to support me on my Patreon page, and that epic Kendopolis member would be J.E. Sentry. We will praise him all throughout this episode, so thank you to J.E. He gave a donation to the final reward tier on that Patreon page, which allows you to basically have your object automatically created, whereas normally the objects in this series are created based on whatever the most amount of viewers vote to be the most popular, most requested each week. So you can have your object created no matter what, too, if you donate, giving in to the last reward tier listed on my Patreon page, link in the description. You notice that we began this episode typing in a rubber glove, because when you normally type that stamp in, you can only get the glove with the palm facing towards us, upwards. Well, we have edited the rubber glove stamp by tapping edit on it and then just press the little trash bag looking icon in the top right once you've been taken to the object editor for it. That will make the palm down rubber glove show up on the other side. And for today's creation, we will need both of them. So to get this palm facing down glove, you just need to click it and then copy it in the object editor. That's all, because then it'll be on your left side panel of recently used stamps. And that's just great. So we started off with a bodybuilder as the source object because J.E. Sentry, being that he gets to have whatever object he wants created basically automatically, he chose Batman, specifically from Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, the movie. And so we've got a bodybuilder as the source object, the male bodybuilder. You notice we took the head off and the legs off, and we gave it kind of this rough pattern or whatever here on the chest and on the arms. That's to be like kind of the fabric of the suit and whatnot, and then we kind of painted it over with a little bit of gray shading. And here's the rubber glove. So of course we can type in rubber glove to get that one for the palm facing us on the back arm, but then we had to go to the left side. You know, when you click the stamp button down at the bottom, kind of in the bottom middle, on the left side we do have that glove that we copied from before. So that's again referencing what I was talking about when we started the episode. A whale fish is what we'll type in after that, and we're gonna try to grab this top fin. You want to try to grab it at the end point of it. It's a little bit finicky when you're playing on the Wii U like I am for this series, but you can also be on PC, and those users probably can pinpoint it a little bit easier to grab the stamp, but you want that top fin of it. And those we're going to do 3 times, painted the same color as the gloves, because they're like this kind of spiky edge on his gloves right there. And because we probably wouldn't have enough stamp space, we're going to go ahead with hair for the backside, because we can't see that one as much, so using hair is okay. Whereas on this arm on the front that's facing closer to us, to our left, I included a little bit more detail by doing the 3 separate spikes. Silica we typed in after that, and silica, I gave it kind of also this weathered pattern look to it, but painted it pretty dark black, or dark gray, I guess you could say. Iguanodon is what we've typed in after that. We're gonna grab the bicep here in the front, so that's like that upper arm kind of piece there of the iguanodon in the front, and giving it that same rough weathered pattern and stuff, but a darker gray than the body or torso piece. And that'll be the start of his legs, and so kind of his thighs basically. and Bondrick is what we typed in after that for the belt. I like the Bondrick. It's like a tool belt. It has a little satchel or bag on the side, and I like that. Seaweed is what we can use after that, and take the food seaweed, since seaweed will give you the option of either a plant or food, and that's going to be for satchels or baggies or whatever for his utility belt, on the other side of the Bondrick stamp that we used. Copying that same Iguanodon piece for the other leg, the back leg, to our right. We've done that, and then I'll go ahead and use Iguanodon once again, but this time we're going to take the shin that's in the back. So the shin piece is just above the foot, of course. You could almost consider it a middle leg piece, and it's for the back leg that is front facing. So does that make sense? It's the one that is in the front, not in the back, and it's the hind legs. Okay, so we've painted that piece, that shin Iguanodon piece, completely black, basically pitch black. It'll start out Batman's boots, and then I'm gonna go with a kidney bean. There we go, we've got that typed in, and so that'll be for the shoes, basically. And so here, just positioning it right now, looking good, pitch black kind of color, and I'll go ahead with a dagger tooth. Oops, I spelled this wrong. Whoops. Right there, just a mistake. And so then I'll grab the end tail piece of the dagger tooth. It has these sort of two little protrusions coming out at the very end of it, and those are going to be like for the bat symbol that's on his chest on the suit. That'll be for like the bat's head, in essence, of the bat symbol. And we'll type in great white shark next. Grab that fin down there at the bottom middle. You can grab the front or the back one, probably. I'm just grabbing this front one, and that's going to look good once we paint that all the way black to be some bat wings here. Now that would be a very odd bat shape if we just left it at that, so we are going to need to kind of get the bottom part of it now to be a little bit different and more accurate, I guess. So from the 29-page library, on the 20th page, we can grab the bottom middle arm. 29-page library is basically just when you click that stamp button at the bottom, you have an option to go into this kind of collection of shapes that are just like body parts and various random miscellaneous stamps. And so when you turn all the way to the 20th page, there's an arm shape down at the bottom middle that we used for that, and we put it on both sides of a triangle, also painted black, for kind of the tail tip of the bat logo. So we're here in the properties editor where we're just kind of editing health and scripting and lots of behind the scenes stuff. So I like to read background information and fun facts about whatever we're creating at this point in the series. So of course, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice is a superhero film of 2016 featuring, you guessed it, Batman and Superman from the DC Comics world. The film grossed $166 million in North America on opening weekend, which was the 8th largest opening of all time, even ahead of the $160.9 million that The Dark Knight Rises did. Unfortunately for the film, in its second weekend, it experienced a pretty historic box office drop, with 81.2% of a decline from Friday to the next Friday, which was one of the biggest Friday-to-Friday drops any blockbuster has ever seen, despite not facing much or any new competition in the theaters. Now, we should all know that films can do well or do poorly and not reflect on whether you personally would like it or not, and you also certainly can't call this film a failure by any stretch. It just had a great opening and then what some consider a downfall, and that's okay. I thought Batman was pretty awesome in the movie. I saw about 75% of it on a flight home from my anniversary with Mrs. Kendo back in late August, early September, where we somehow were lucky enough to be on one of those flights with free movies to select from, so I got to see most of it. I suggest you see the movie only if you're interested in the premise, of course, but just to end off, we will thank J.E. Sentry once again for giving in to the final reward tier on Patreon, which allows supporters to have their object automatically created, bypassing the usual rule of creations needing to be most popular or most requested to get created each week. So thanks again to the elite members of Kendopolis like JE who support me on Patreon. There are lots of other reward tiers to choose from as well, so take your pick. Link in the description. We've now got a head as the source object with a golden egg over that was painted all the way black, and a triceratops. We took the kind of upper leg piece for the front leg in the front facing, and that was painted sort of with the Batman flesh tone, and so we've got that to be the section of his mouth that kind of is peeking out among the mask and everything for where you can see his skin. Back to the 29-page library, we can go on to the 22nd page and second row from the bottom, but in the middle, there's an arm shape right there that's kind of bended almost. It's like almost straight, but a little bit of a bend to it. And so we'll use that, paint it all the way black to round out this part of the mask that I was just talking about where you can see his mouth and his skin right there. So we don't want that triceratops piece to go all the way kind of to our left like that. I do want to rein it in right there, just as you see we have done. A dunce cap, that's what we can type in after that, and I'll use this to, we don't want to paint it completely pitch black, but mostly black. It needs to blend in with that golden golden egg a little bit, but there is some kind of like shading and light that is cast on the dunce cap where it will look like the nose basically outlines within the mask. And that's also how we did the Bat Kendo's nose. If you saw the skit in the beginning of this episode, of course, you probably noticed that, I hope. Goldfish, the bottom fin in the middle, down at the bottom. You can take that to be the white part of his eyes right here coming from the mask. So above the nose, we painted those white. Looks good. We've kind of got him in the right position right now, but things may need to be moved around as we get all the pieces of the mask coming together. I'll type in P, which is PEA. Of course, I don't mean any other kind of P. And right now it almost looks like the spy from Team Fortress or something, but that's because we are far from finished. So let's go with a jellyfish after that because the P was basically the pupils. And so with the jellyfish upper tentacle piece, we use the one that's kind of close to the jellyfish's body on our left side, but it's just in essence one black line, kind of just a straight line. I'll use a shark bottom fin in the back, kind of down there in the middle, and for that we'll paint it all the way black. This can be the bat points on the top of the mask on both sides. And so it is coming together after that's in, looking all right. So we're just going to now do very slight adjustments and slight details and things. Like, for instance, one of them I can do is I can take the 20th page arm again from the 29-page library down in the bottom middle, and we can paint that almost all the way black, but just a shade lighter. And this will be like for, he always kind of looks like he's frowning, and Batman always sort of has this like somber look to him and stuff. And so with that, there's some creasing just above his eyes. He's got his forehead creased like that, and so that's why I use those arm shapes. You can kind of do that if you want to, or you can leave it out, depending on if you like the way it looks. Now, for the properties editing on the head object here, you want to be sure that you go to the equipment tab, and that third circle down at the bottom on the bottom half of the screen, it says can be worn on the face like glasses. You want to fill that in, because then when we put the head object into the hands of our body object, it will then transfer to where glasses would basically be, which puts the head in the right position, or at least close to it, when we give our head piece to the body piece. Now, we do want his cape. I certainly didn't forget it. Since we didn't have enough stamp space to do all of this together, I just kind of started off with a dot. You can start off with almost any stamp that you want for the cape, but you want it to be sort of small or basically be able to be covered up. And that's why I chose a dot. I put a wafer board behind the dot, painted black, but then also just a cape over that. You literally type in cape, and we painted it black, of course. And so you can see what the wafer board looks like when I type in this here or when I removed the cape just a second ago. But it's just to kind of give it an overall flowing cape feel. And so then for this one in the properties editor, you want to go to the equipment tab and this time check off the final circle all the way at the bottom that says can be worn on the back like a backpack, because obviously it will be worn on the back. And that's why the cape is actually kind of horizontal to us right now, the way that we're seeing it. And once it gets worn like a backpack though, it'll be right side up again. It'll be on his back in retrospect kind of sideways, but that puts it upright for us. So that's great. And for this episode, we won't just leave it at that. We're also going to create the armored Batman suit from the movie as well. And so we'll start off with a male space marine right here. I'm doing a lot of different kind of color patterns. It's mostly, well, I guess it's not a lot. It's actually just kind of between two mainly. So it'll be the metallic-y kind of color pattern, and then the spiderweb fishnet looking kind of one. And so you'll see in different places, where I'm placing that. But we took away the legs of the space marine and the head. Keep on the arms, though. We're going to keep those on. That can be a good template for starting the arms of the armored suits, Batman suit basically. So now I think it would be good just to get started on a few of the stamps as we're coloring everything. I'll go with the letter I, so just type in I. We'll make that be like this part that goes kind of across the chest here. I suppose you'll call that a strap across the chest. And then I'm going to type in seaweed. We did this last time with the other Batman suit, but the seaweed will serve mostly the same kind of purpose, but we'll turn it on its side here, and of course you go with the food seaweed, not the plant. And I'm going to type in minus sign after that. The minus sign is going to be this connector of the belt from satchel to satchel, basically because these seaweeds are going to be the little bags or satchels right there. And then we can use a peach, and actually of course you get the Nintendo peach or food peach, and of course I'm looking for food. And so there we go. We can place these peaches down to be basically the fists. It's like his fists are kind of balled up at the sides there, and so we've got the peaches down. I put the metallic-y pattern over those as well. And chicken is what I'm going to type in next. Of course, you get several options. We want the animal, and so for the bird chicken right here, I can color the edges of the wings almost like the chicken's fingers or whatever, those feathers at the end. We're going to color those kind of the same grayish metallic color as the arms, and those will be the spiky parts right there. We'll put down a mare, that's M-A-R-E. For the back legs, we'll grab kind of that upper leg piece of that, and this is going to be the start of the legs down here, although it's just kind of an armor plating over some of the legs, so we can actually just type in leg. Really, you need kind of any capsule type shaped thing, or anything that's sort of in this general design, if you're going by my design, I should say, if you're going by this tutorial. And so then now we can go back to the Space Marine, the male Space Marine, and I'll take his back leg to be both of the feet, the bottom sections of the armored Batman legs here, because in essence we have two kind of major parts that create these legs. So we've got that mare piece with the leg stamp in Scribblenauts, and then the Space Marine's actual legs from the beginning, but just taking that back one because it doesn't have the little black dot connector joint piece. And you can notice probably as we're making some other adjustments and things, I did take the chicken wing once again that we used up at the top for the arms to also be the spikes down there on the legs. And here we're naming it just because I have only a few other stamps to put on. So what we can do to finish off this creation is one stamp will be an iguanodon, going back with that back shin piece, so the hind legs, and using the shin piece for that to be the feet. And then nailed, N-A-L-E-D, it'll be like this clip part with the letter I across, just kind of down from it on that strap across the chest there. And so of course there's a little bit of scripting and properties editing going on, and you can probably see that on screen, but I do just want to explain, I do this most episodes, but a stamp is basically any of these pieces that we've used to create your object overall, like the iguanodon shin or the letter I or the nailed. These kinds of things are stamps, and Scribblenauts Unlimited might have the name Scribblenauts Unlimited, but it's actually not unlimited in stamp space. It has a limit. And so again, that's why we created the head separate from the body and the cape as well. So all of those pieces can come together successfully, as you'll see at the end of this episode, or more towards it's just a little later on in the episode. And so finishing out the scripting, we can mostly, one major thing I want to change is under the behavior tab. I'm going to do this with the other Batman as well, so our armored and non-armored. It's basically just a behavior of use, and then what's he going to use is going to be weapons. And so then, of course, one of the main scripts that I do down in the scripting tool at the very bottom is whenever an object loses or gains health, then it will become brave or fearless, whatever adjective you want to use to describe that, basically. But it's to be sure that it won't run away when it gets attacked. It won't shy away from any fights. And you can now see on screen that we have the armored Batman's head right there. And so I've just taken the color away from all the various stamps that we've used. We did start off with the head as the source object. As you saw, I removed the golden egg right there that kind of made the main base of the head. I like how this turned out. So we've got a fin right there. And of course, you want the organic fin. There's a few different options for fin. So go with the organic one. That'll be on both sides at the very edges on the bottom, basically, for those pieces. And then dunce cap is going to be for the bat spikes there on the top of the head. And so now we'll type in cuttlefish, and the cuttlefish in the middle has these kind of, tendril arm pieces. So we'll grab the edge that basically looks like this triangular spike looking thing. That'll be the eyes, of course. And they have a thick enough black line outlining it that I feel that it kind of creates this depth to it and looks good on the metallic head as it is right here. Triceratops, that same upper leg front piece that we used on the first Batman, we used the same one to be the kind of skin that you can see there around the mouth that's exposed. A rat tail painted all the way black. That's what we use for the mouth. This is to give you two different options. I personally like how the jellyfish line looked, just kind of a straight line for the mouth, but the rat tail is just another option if you want a little bit of curvature in there. And so a trapezoid was that little green stamp that I had that's just from the geometry library in Scribblenauts Unlimited. If you're in Scribblenauts Unmasked, you're going to need to type in trapezoid, but it's for the kind of chin part right there. And then the two that were to the side of it are the trapezium. And so, of course, just like you scripted the first head object, you want the equipment tab to have the checked off circle of can be worn on the face like glasses. And now I will show you what that looks like when you put it all together. So here it goes. The head is actually mostly in the spot that I want it to be, but it's a little bit backwards and maybe needs to go up just a tiny bit. So we'll edit the torso or the body object of our armored Batman here. On the left side of your panel of buttons, you can see that there's an icon with Maxwell's head and a banana and a wheel with dotted lines around it. You want to click that. That will turn on the green grids here. showing you all the moving parts and places you can put stamps for your creation. Well, the head one, of course, is at the top where the head should be, and so I moved it kind of to our right a little bit and up just a small amount, and so I think that that's a little bit better. We may actually need to increase the body's size overall because the head looks a little bit big. But here's a look at our first Batman, without the armored suit and everything, and there's my Mega Man creation from when I remade Mega Man in this series. It was just about a year and a few months ago. So our Mega Man remake, I made it hostile so that it will now fight our Batman creation so that you can see some intercreation battling going on here. And I have our armored Batman to the side there. I just need him to stay out. I don't want to gang up 2-on-1 or anything. And so here Batman is taking damage from the fire and everything, but he's so strong, he's got so much health, and he's just beefy, so he's gonna take down this Mega Man pretty well. Going back in the nature and the spirit of remake creations, here's my Sonic the Hedgehog remake, and so this was actually much more recent though. It was just a few months ago, and here it's a pretty strong Sonic actually, and our armored Batman does have a lot of health, but our Sonic does kind of a lot more damage than I think it should. You can see armored Batman even having a little bit of trouble, but here's this shotgun, and since he's scripted to use weapons, he picked it up immediately, turned the tides of battle, and whooped up our Sonic creation right there. And of course its head fell off because the heads and the bodies were separate then too. And so here's a look at our creations. I hope everybody loves it, but of course I hope I made J.E. Sentry proud to give to the Patreon page, so thanks one more time to him. And again, anybody who wants their creation automatically made, bypassing the votes, you know what to do. My Patreon is usually linked at the beginning and at the end of the videos in annotation styled end cards, but it's also in the description. It's very easy to find, but I'll even just say patreon.com/drkendo. That's patreon.com/drkendo. And never fear, you're getting an episode just like normal this Sunday. So when somebody gives to Patreon, they are helping all of us because that is 2 episodes in a week rather than the usual 1. And I will catch you guys on the next vid, and thanks for viewing.